judges. After the death of Joshua, the Israelites inquired of the Lord, "Who will be the first to fight for us against the Canaanites?" The Lord answered, "Judah is to go. I have handed the land over to him." Judah said to his brother Shimon, "Come with me to my allotted territory, and let's fight against the Canaanites. I will also go with you to your allotted territory." So Simeon went with him. When Judah attacked, the Lord handed the Canaanites and Perizzites over to him. They struck down 10,000 men in Bezek. They found Adoni-Bezek in Bezek, fought against him, and struck down the Canaanites and Perizzites. When Adoni-Bezek fled, they pursued him, caught him, and cut off his thumb and big toe. Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off used to pick up scraps under my table. God has repaid me for what I have done." They brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. The men of Judah fought against Jerusalem, captured it, put it to the sword, and set the city on fire. Afterward, the men of Judah marched down to fight against the Canaanites, who were living in the hill country of the Negev and the Judean foothills. Judah also marched against the Canaanites who were living in Hebron. Hebron was formerly named Kiriath Arba. They struck down Sheshai and Ahamin and Talmiah. From there they marched against the resident of Debir. Debir was formerly named Kiriath Sephir. Caleb said, "Whoever attacks and captures Kiriath Sephir will give my daughter Aksha to him as a wife." So Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's youngest brother, captured it, and Caleb gave his daughter Aksha to him as his wife. When she arrived, she pursued Othniel and to ask her father for a field. As she got off her donkey, Caleb asked her, "What do you want?" She answered him, "Give me a blessing, since you have given me land of Negev. Give me springs also." So Caleb gave her both the upper and lower springs. The descendants of the Canaanites, Moses' father-in-law, had gone up with the men of Judah from the city of Saul to the wilderness of Judah, which was in the Negev of Arad. they went to live among the people. Judah went with his brother Simon, struck the Canaanites who were living in Zapheth, and completely destroyed the town. So they named the town Hormah. Judah captured Gaza and its territory, Ashkelon and its territory, and Ekron and its territory. The Lord was with Judah and enabled them to take possession of the hill country, but they could not drive out the people who were living in the plains, because those people had iron chariots. Judah gave Hebron to Caleb just as Moses has promised. Then Caleb drove out the 3 sons of Anak who lived there. At the same time, the Benjaminites did not drive out the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem. The Jebusites have lived among the Benjaminites in Jerusalem to this day. The house of Joseph also attacked Bethel, and the Lord was with him. They sent spies to Bethel. The town was formerly named Luz. The spies saw a man coming out of the town and said to him, "Please show us how to get into the town, and we will show you kindness." When he showed them a way into the town, they put the town to the sword, but released the man and his entire family. Then the men went to the land of the Hivites, built a town, and named it Luz. That is its name still today. At that time, Manasseh failed to take possession of Bethshan and Tanakh and their surrounding villages, or the resident of Dor, Elbin, and Megiddo, and their surrounding villages. The Canaanites were determined to stay in this island. When Israel became stronger, they made the Canaanites serve as forced labor, but never drove them out completely. At that time, Ephraim failed to drive out the Canaanites who were living in Gezer, so the Canaanites had lived among them in Gezer. Zebulun failed to drive out the residents of Kitron, or the residents of Nahalol, so the Canaanites lived among them and served as forced labor. Asher failed to drive out the residents of Akko, or of Sidon, or Alab, Akzib, Helba, Aphik, or Rehob. The Asherites lived among the Canaanites who were living in the land because they failed to drive them out. Naphtali did not drive out the residents of Beth Shemesh, or the residents of Beth Anath, They lived among the Canaanites who were living in the land, but the residents of Beth-Shemesh and Hanath served as their forced labor. The Amorites forced the Danites into the hill country and did not allow them to go down into the valley. The Amorites were determined to stay in Harheres, Aijalon, and Shalbin. When the house of Joseph got the upper hand, the Amorites were made to serve as forced labor. The territory of the Amorites extended from the Scorpions ascents, that is from Selah upward.
Judges 2. The angel of the Lord went out from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you out of Egypt and led you into the land I had promised to your ancestors. I also said, I will never break my covenant with you. You are not to make a covenant with the inhabitant of your land. You are to tear down their altars, but you have not obeyed me. What have you done? Therefore, I now say, I will not drive out of the people before you. They will be thorns in your sides, and their gods will be a trap for you. When the angel of the Lord had spoke these words to all the Israelites, the people wept loudly. So they named the place Bochim and offered sacrifices there to the Lord. Previously, when Joshua had sent the people away, the Israelites had gone to take possession of the land, each to his own inheritance. The people worshipped the Lord throughout Joshua's lifetime and during the lifetime of the elder who outlived Joshua. They had seen the Lord's great work he had done for Israel. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. They buried him in the territory of his inheritance in Timnath-Heres, in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash. That whole generation was also gathered to their ancestors. After them, another generation rose up who did not know the Lord or the works he had done for Israel. The Israelites did what was evil in the Lord's sight. They worshipped the Baals and abandoned the Lord, the God of the ancestors who had brought them out of Egypt. They followed other gods from the surrounding peoples and bowed down to them. They angered the Lord, for they abandoned him and worshipped Baal and the Ashtoreths. The Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he handed them over to Meridus, who raided them. He sold them to the enemies around them, and they could no longer resist their enemies. Whenever the Israelites went out, the Lord was against. Whenever the Israelites went out, the Lord was against and brought disaster on them, just as he had promised and sworn to them. So they suffered greatly. The Lord raised up judges who saved them from the power of the marauders. Who saved them from the power of the marauders? But they did not listen to their judges. Instead, they prostituted themselves with other gods, bowing down to them. They quickly turned from the way of their ancestors who had walked in obedience to the Lord's commandment. They did not do as their ancestor did. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for the Israelites, the Lord was with him and saved the people from the power of their enemies while the judges were still alive. The Lord was not moved to pity whenever they groaned because of those who were oppressing and afflicting them. Whenever the judges died, the Israelites who act even more corruptly than their ancestors, following other gods to serve them and bow in worship to them. They did not turn from their evil practices or their obstinate ways. The Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he declared, because this nation has violated my covenant that I have their ancestors and disobeyed me, I'll no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. I did this to test Israel and to see whether or not they would keep the Lord's way by walking in it as their ancestors had. The Lord left these nations and did not drive them out immediately. He did not hand them over to Joshua.
Joshua chapter 3. These are the nations of the Lord left in order to test all those in Israel who had experienced none of the wars in Canaan. This was to teach the future generations of the Israelites how to fight in battle, especially those who had not fought before. These nations included the 5 rulers of the Philistines and all of the Canaanites, the Sidonians, and the Hivites, who lived in the Lebanon mountains from Mount Baal Hermon as far as the entrance to Hamath. The Lord left them to test Israel to determine if they would keep the Lord's commands he had given their ancestors through Moses. But they settled among the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. The Israelites took their daughters as wives for themselves, gave their own daughters to their sons, and worshipped their gods. The Israelites did what was evil in the Lord's sight. They forgot the Lord, their God, and worshipped the Baals and the Asherahs. The Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he sold them to King Cushan-Rishathaim of Aram Naharaim, and the Israelites served him 8 years. The Israelites cried out to the Lord, so the Lord raised up Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's youngest brother, as a deliverer to save the Israelites. The Spirit of the Lord came on him, and he judged Israel. Othniel went out to battle, and the Lord handed over King Cushan-Rishathaim of Aram to him, so that Othniel overpowered him. Then the land had peace for 40 years, and Othniel, son of Kenaz, died. The Israelites again did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He gave King Eglon of Moab power over Israel, because they had done what was evil in the Lord's sight. After Eglon convinced the Ammonites and the Amalekites to join forces with him, He attacked and defeated Israel and took possession of the city of palms. The Israelites served King Eglon of Moab 18 years. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord, and he raised up Ehud, son of Gera, a left-handed Benjaminite, as a deliverer for them. The Israelites sent him with a tribute for King Eglon of Moab. Ehud made himself a double-edged sword, 18 inches long. He strapped it to his right thigh under his cloths and brought the tribute to King Eglon of Moab, who was an extremely fat man. When Ehud had finished presenting the tribute, he dismissed the people who had carried it. At the carved image near Gilgal, he returned and said, "King Eglon, I have a secret message for you." The king said, "Silence," and all his attendants left him. Then Ehud approached him while he was sitting alone in his upstairs room where it was cool. Ehud said, "I have given a message from God for you," and the king stood up from his throne. Ehud reached with his left hand, took the sword from his right thigh, and plunged it into Eglon's belly. Even the handle went in after the blade, and Eglon's fat closed up in over it, so that Ehud did not withdraw the sword from his belly, and the waist came out. Ehud escaped by way of the porch, closing and locking the doors of the upstairs room behind him. Ehud was gone when Eglon's servants came in. They looked and found the doors of the upstairs room locked and thought he was relieving himself in the cool room. The servants waited until they became embarrassed and saw that he had still not opened the doors of the upstairs room. So they took the key and opened the doors. And there was their lord lying dead on the floor. Ehud escaped while the servants waited. He passed the Jordan near the carved images and reached Serah. After he arrived, he sounded the ram's horn throughout the hill country of Ephraim. The Israelites came down with him from the hill country, and he became their leader. He told them, "Follow me, because the Lord has handed over your enemies, the Moabites, to you." So they followed him, captured the fords of the Jordan leading to Moab, and did not allow anyone to cross over. At that time they struck down about 10,000 Moabites, all stout and able-bodied men. Not one of them escaped. Moab became subject to Israel that day, and the land had peace for 80 years. After Ehud, Shamgar, son of Anath, became judge, he also delivered Israel, striking down 600 Philistines with a cattle prod.
Judge 4. The Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud had died. So the Lord sold them to King Jabin of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth of the nations. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord because Jabin had 900 iron carriers, and he harshly oppressed them 20 years. Deborah, a prophetess and the wife of Lapidov, was judging Israel at that time. She would sit under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelite went up to her to settle disputes. She summoned Barak, son of Abinoam from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, Hasn't the Lord, the God of Israel, commanded you, Go, destroy the troops on the Mount Tabor, and take with you 10,000 men from the Naphtalites and Zebulunites? Then I will lure Sisera, commander of Jabin's army, his chariots and his infantry at the Wadi Kizon to fight against you, and I will hand him over to you. Barak said to her, If you will go with me, I will go. But if you do not go with me, I will not go. I will gladly go with you, she said, but you will receive no honor on the road you are about to take, because the Lord will sell Sisera to a woman. So Deborah got up and went with Barak to Kadesh. Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh. 10,000 men followed him, and Deborah also went with him. Now Eber, the Kenite, had moved away from Kenites, the sons of Hobab, Moses' father-in-law, and pitched his tent beside the oak tree of Zananim, which was near Kadesh. It was reported to Sisera that Barak's son of Abinoam had gone up Mount Tabor. Sisera summoned all his 900 iron chariots and all the troops who were with him from Hadoshet of the nations to the Wadi Kizum. Then Deborah said to Barak, Go, this is the day the Lord has handed Sisera over to you. Hasn't the Lord gone before you? So Barak came down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. The Lord threw Sisera, all his charioteers, and all his army into a panic. Before Barak's assault, Sisera left his chariot and fled on foot. Barak pursued the chariots and the army as far as Haroset of the nations, and the whole army of Sisera fell by the sword. Not a single man was left. Meanwhile, Sisera had fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Eber the Kenite, because there was peace between King Jabin of Azor and the family of Eber the Kenite. Jael went out to greet Sisera and said to him, Come in, my lord, come in with me, don't be afraid. So he went into her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. He said to her, Please give me a little water to drink, for I'm thirsty. She opened a container of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him again. Then he said to her, Stand at the entrance to the tent. If a man comes and asks you, Is there a man here? Say no. While he was sleeping from exhaustion, Heber's wife, Jael, took a tent peg grabbed a hammer and went silently through Sisera. She hammered the peg into his temple and drove it into the ground, and he died. When Barak arrived in pursuit of Sisera, Jael went up to greet him and said to him, "Come and I will show you the man you are looking for." So he went in with her, and there was Sisera lying down with a tent peg through his temple. That day, God subdued King Jabin of Canaan before the Israelites. The power of the Israelites continued to increase against King Jabin of Canaan until they destroyed him.
Judges 5. On that day, Deborah and Barak, son of Ebinoah, sang. When the leaders lead in Israel, when the people volunteer, blessed be the Lord. Listen, kings, pay attention, princesses. I will sing to the Lord. I will sing praise to the Lord God of Israel. Lord, when you came from Seir, when you marched from the field of Edom, the earth trembled, the skies poured rain, the clouds poured water. The mountains melted before the Lord, even Sinai before the Lord, the God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the main roads were deserted, because travelers kept to the side of the road. Villages were deserted. They were described in Israel until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel. Israel chose new gods. Then there was war in the city gates. Not a shield or spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. My heart is with the leaders of Israel, with the volunteer of the people. Blessed be the Lord. You who ride on the white donkeys, who sit on the saddle blankets, and who travel on the road, give praise. Let them tell the righteous acts of the Lord, the righteous deeds of the villages in Israel, with the voice of the singers and the watering places. Then the Lord's people went down to the city gates. Awake, awake, Deborah, awake, awake, sing a song. Arise, Barak, and take your prisoners, son of Abinoam. Then the survivors came down to the nobles. The Lord's people came down to me against the warriors, those with their roots in Amalek came from Ephraim. Benjamin came with your people after you. The leaders came down from Machir, and those who carry a martial staff come from Zebulun. The princes of Issachar with Deborah. Issachar was with Barak. There was a great searching of heart among the clans of Reuben. Why did you sit among these sheep pens, listening to the playing of pipes for the flocks? There was a great searching of heart among the clans Reuben. Gad remained beyond the Jordan. Dan, why did you linger at the ship? Asher remained at the seashore and stayed in his harbors. The people of Zebulun defiled death. Naphtali also on the heights of battlefield. Kings came and fought them. The kings of Canaan fought in Tanash by the waters of Megiddo, but they did not plunder the silver. The stars fought from the heavens. The stars fought with Sisera from their paths. The river Kishon swept them away. The ancient river, the river Kishon, marched on my soul in strength. The horses' hooves then hammered the galloping of his stallions. Curse Miraz, says the angel of the Lord. Bitterly curse her inhabitants, for they did not come to help the Lord, to help the Lord with the warriors. The wife of Heber the Kenite. She is most blessed among tent-dwelling women. He asked for water, she gave him milk. She brought him cream in a majestic bowl. She reached from a tent peg, her right hand for a workman's hammer. Then she hammered Sisera. She crushed his head. She shattered the pierced his temple. He collapsed, he fell, he lay down between her feet. He collapsed, he fell between her feet. Where he collapsed, there he fell, dead. She peered through the lattice, crying out, "Why is his chariot so long in coming?" Why don't I hear the hoofbeats of his horses? He whisked, princess, answer her. She even answered herself, "Are they not finding and dividing the spoil? A girl or two for each warrior. The spoil of colored garment of Sisera, the spoil of an embroidered garment or two of my neck. Lord, may all your enemies perish as Sisera did, but may those who love him be like rising of the sun in its strength." And the land had peace for 40 years.
Judges 6. The Israelites did was evil in the sight of the Lord, so the Lord handed them over to Midian 7 years, and they oppressed Israel. Because of Midian, the Israelites made hidden places for them, slaves in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and the people of the east came and attacked them. They encamped against them and destroyed the product of the land, even as far as Gaza. They left nothing for Israel to eat, as well as no sheep, ox, or donkey. For the Midianites came with their cattle and their tent like a great swarm of Loat's number, and they entered the land. They lay waste to it. So Israelite became poverty stricken because of Midian, and the Israelites cried out to the Lord. When the Israelites cried out to him because of Midian, the Lord sent a prophet to them. He said to them, "This is what the Lord God of Israel says. I thought I brought you out of Egypt and out of the place of slavery. I rescued you from the power of Egypt and the power of all who oppresses you. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not fear the God of the Amorites, whose land you live in." But you did not obey me. The angels of the Lord came, and he sat under the oak that was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abiezrites. His son Gibeon was threshing wheat in the winepress. In order to hide it from the Midianites, then the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "The Lord is with you, valiant warrior." Gideon said to him, "Please, my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? And where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about?" They said, "Hasn't the Lord brought us out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us over to Midian." The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have and deliver Israel from the grasp of Midian. I am sending you." He said to him, "Please, Lord, how can I deliver Israel? Look, my family is the weakest in the Midian in Manasseh, and I am the youngest in my father's family. But I will be with you." The Lord said to him, "You will strike Midian down as if it were one man." Then he said to him, "If I found favor with you, give me a sign that you are speaking with me. Please do not leave this place until I return to you. Let me bring a gift and set it before you," he said. And he said, "I will stay until you return." So Gibeon went and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread from the half bushel of flour. He placed the meat in the basket and the broth in a pot. He brought them out and offered them to him under the oak. The angel of God said to him, "Take the meat with the unlavished bread, put it on the stone, and pour the broth on it." So he did that. the angels of the Lord extended the tip of the staff and that was in the hand and touched the meat and the unleavened bread. Fire came out from the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread. Then the angels of the Lord vanished from his sight. When Gideon realized that he was the angel of the Lord, he said, "Oh no, Lord God, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." But the Lord said to him, "Peace to you, don't be afraid, for you will not die." So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it "The Lord is Peace." It is still in Ophrah of the Abizites today. On that very night, the Lord said to him, "Take your father's young bull and the second bull 7 years old. Then tear down the altar of Baal that belonged to your father and cut down the Asher pole beside it. Build a well-concentrated altar to the Lord your God on the top of the mound. Take the second bull and offer it as a burnt offering. This with the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down." So Gideon took 10 of his male servants and did as the Lord had told him, because he was too afraid of his father's family and the man of the city to do in the daytime. He did it at night. When the men of the city got up in the morning, they found Baal's altar torn down, the Asherah pole beside it cut down, and the second bull offering put on the altar that had been built. They said to each other, "Who did this?" After they made a thought and investigation, they said, "Gideon, son of Joash, did it." Then the men of the city said to Joash, "Bring out your son. He must die." Then, because he tore down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. But Joash said to all who stood against him, "Would you plead Baal's case for him? Would you save him? Whoever pleads to his case will be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him plead his own case, because someone tore down his altar." The day Gideon was called Gurbaal, since Joash said, "Let Baal contend with him, because he tore down his altar." All the Midianites, Amalekites, and the people of the east gathered together, crossed over the Jordan, and camped in the Jezreel valley. The Spirit of the Lord enveloped Gibeon, and he blew the ram's horn, and the Amorites relied behind them. He sent messengers throughout all of Manasseh. He railed behind him. He also sent messengers throughout Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, who also came to meet him. Then Gibeon said to God, "If you will deliver Israel to me as you said, I will put a wool fleece here on the threshing floor. If the dew is only on the fleece, and all the ground is dry, I will know that you will deliver Israel by me, as you said." And that is what happened. When he got up early in the morning, he squeezed the fleece and rugged dew out of it, filling a bowl with water. Gibeon then said to the Lord, "Don't be angry with me. Let me speak one more time, please. Allow me to make one more test with the fleece. Let it remain dry, and the dew will be over the ground." That night, God did as Gibeon requested. Only the flea was dry, and dew was all over the ground. Judges 7. Jerubbaal, that is Gibeon, and all the troops who were with him got up early and camped beside the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them, below the hill of Moreh. In the valley, the Lord said to Gibeon, "You have too many troops for me to hand the Midianites over to them, or else Israel might elevate themselves over me and say, 'I saved myself.' Now announce to the troop, whoever is fearful and trembling may turn back and leave Mount Gilead." So 22,000 of the troops turned back, but 10,000 remained. And the Lord said to Gibeon, "There's still too many troops. Take them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. If I say to you, 'This one can go with you,' you can go. But if I say about anyone, 'This one cannot go with you,' he cannot go." So he brought the troops down to the water, and the Lord said to Gibeon, "Separate everyone who laps water with his tongue like a dog. Do the same with everyone who kneels to drink." The number of those who lapped with their hands to their mouth was 300 men, and all the rest of the troop knelt to drink water. The Lord said to Gibeon, "I will deliver you with the 300 men who lapped with hand the Midianites over to you, but everyone else is to go home." So Gideon sent all the Israelites to their tents, but kept the 300 troops who took the provision and their ram's horns The camp of Midian was below him in the valley. The night the Lord said to him, "Get up and attack the camp, for I have handed it over to you. But if you are afraid to attack the camp, go down to Peru and your servant, listen to what they say, and then you will be encouraged to attack the camp." So he went down to Purah, his servant, to the outpost of the troop who were in the camp. Now the Midianites, Amalekites, and all the people of the east had settled down in the valley like a swarm of locusts, and their camels were innumerable as the sand on a seashore. Then Gibeon arrived there with a man telling his friend about a dream. He said, "Listen, I had a dream. A loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp, struck a tent, and it fell. The loaf turned the tent upside down, so that it collapsed." His friend answered, "This is nothing less than the sword of Gibeon, son of Joash. The Israelites, God had handed the entire Midianite camp over to him. When Gibeon heard the account of the dream and its entire presence, he bowed in worship. He returned to Israelite camp and said, "Get up, for the Lord has handed the Midianite camp over to you." Then he divided the 300 men into 3 companies and gave each of them a ram horn in one hand and an empty pitcher with a torch inside it in the other hand. "Watch me," he said to them, and do what I do. When I come to the outpost of the camp, do as I do. When I and everyone with me blow our ram's horn, you are also to blow your ram's horn all around the camp. Then you will say, 'For the Lord and for Gibeon.'" Gibeon and the 100 men who were with him went to the outpost of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch after the sentries had been stationed. They blew their ram horns and broke the pitchers that were in their hand. The three campings blew their ram horn and shattered their pitchers. They held their torches in their left hand and their ram's horn to blow in their right hand. "The Lord," and they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Each Israelite took his position around the camp, and the entire Midianite army began to run, and they cried out as they fled. When Gibeon's men blew their 300 ram's horn, the Lord caused the men in the whole army to turn on each other with their swords. They fled to Akaki's house in the border of Abel Mahola, near Tabernath. Then the men of Israel were called from Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh, and they pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim with this message: "Come down to entramp the Midianites and take control of the water sources ahead of them as far as Beth Bar and the Jordan." So all the men of Ephraim were called out, and they took control of the water sources as far as Bethlehem and the Jordan. They captured Oreb and Zeb, the two princes of Midian. They killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb and Zeb at the winepress of Zeb. While they were pursuing the Midianites, they brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon across the Jordan.
You what? In Judges chapter 8, the men of Ephraim said to him, "We have done this to us, not calling us when you went to fight the Midianites." And they argued with him violently. So he said to them, "What have I done now compared to you? Is not the gleaming of Ephraim better than the grape harvest of Ebenezer?" God handed over to Oreb and Zeb, the two princes of Midian. What was I able to do compared to you? When he said this, their anger against him subsided. Gideon and the 300 men came to the Jordan and crossed it. They were exhausted but still in pursuit. He said to the men of Succoth, "Please give us some loaves of bread to the troops under my command, because they are exhausted, for I am pursuing Zebub and Zalmunna, the king of Midian." But the princes of Succoth asked him, "Are Zebub and Zalmunna now in your hands, that we should give bread to your army?" Gideon replied, "Very well, when the Lord has handed Zebub and Zalmunna over to me, I will tear your flesh with thorns and briars from the wilderness." He went from them to Penuel and asked the same thing from them. The men of Penuel answered just as the men of Succoth had answered him. He also told the men of Penuel, "When I return safely, I will tear down this tower." Now Zebeth and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and with them was their army of about 15,000 men, who were all those left of the entire army of the people of the east. Those who had been killed were 120,000 armed men. Gideon traveled on the caravan route east of Nobeth and Jogbahath and attacked them army while the army felt secure. Zebeth and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them. He captured the two kings of Midian and routed the entire army. Gideon, son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Herods. He captured a youth from the men of Succoth and interrogated him. The youth wrote down for him the names of the 77 leaders and the elders of Succoth. Then he went to the men of Succoth and said, "Here are Zebeth and Zalmunna, You taunted me about them, saying, the Zebeth and Zalmunna now in your power, that we should give bread to your exhausted men. So he took the elders of the city and took some thorns and briars from the wilderness, and he disciplined the men of Succoth with them. He also tore down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. He asked the Zebulun and Zalmunna, what kind of men did you kill in Tabor? They were like you, they said. Each resembled the son of a king. So he said, they were my brothers and the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if you had let them live, I would not kill you. Then he said to Jetheth, the firstborn, get up and kill them. The youth did not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a youth. Zebeth and Zalmunna said, get up and strike us down yourself, for a man is judged by his strength. So Gideon got up and killed Zebeth and Zalmunna, and took the crescent ornaments that were on the necks of their camels. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, rule over us, you as well as your sons and your grandsons, for you delivered us from the power of Midian. But Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. Then he said to them, let me make a request of you. Every one, give me an earring from your plunder. Now the enemy had gold earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. They said, we will agree to give them. So they spread out a cloak, and everyone threw an earring from their plunder on it. The weight of the gold rings he requested was 43 pounds of gold, in addition to the crescent ornaments and the ear pendants, the purple garments on the kings of Midian, and the gold cheeks on the camels. Gideon made an effort from all of this, and he put it in Ophrah's, his hometown. Then all the Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping it there, and it became a snare in Gideon and his household. So Midian was subdued by the Israelites, and they were no longer a threat. The land had a peace for 40 years during the days of Gideon. Zebul, son of Joash, went back to live at his house. Gideon had 70 sons as offspring, and since he had many wives, his concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he named him Ameliak. Then Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age, and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. When Gideon died, Israelites turned and prostituted themselves by worship the Baals. They made Baal Berith their god. The Israelites did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the lands of the enemies around them. They did not show kindness to the house of Jeruel for all of the good he had done for Israel. You what? In Judges chapter 8, the men of Ephraim said to him, we have done this to us, not calling us when you went to fight the Midianites. And they argued with him violently. So he said to them, what have I done now compared to you? Is not the gleaming of Ephraim better than the grape harvest of Ebenezer? God handed over to Oreb and Zeeb, the two princes of Midian. What was I able to do compared to you? When he said this, their anger against him subsided. Gideon and the 300 men came to the Jordan and crossed it. They were exhausted, but still in pursuit. He said to the men of Succoth, please give us some loaves of bread to the troops under my command, because they are exhausted, for I am pursuing Zebub and Zalmunna, the king of Midian. But the princes of Succoth asked him, Are Zebub and Zalmunna now in your hands, that we should give bread to your army? Gideon replied, Very well, when the Lord has handed Zebub and Zalmunna over to me, I will tear your flesh with thorns and briars from the wilderness. He went from them to Penuel and asked the same thing from them. The men of Penuel answered just as the men of Succoth had answered him. He also told the men of Penuel, When I return safely, I will tear down this tower. Now Zebeth and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and with them was their army of about 15,000 men, who were all those left of the entire army of the people of the east. Those who had been killed were 120,000 armed men. Gideon traveled on the caravan route east of Nobeth and Jogbahath and attacked them army while the army felt secure. Zebeth and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them. He captured the 2 kings of Midian and routed the entire army. Gideon, son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Herods. He captured a youth from the men of Succoth and interrogated him. The youth wrote down for him the names of the 77 leaders and the elders of Succoth. Then he went to the men of Succoth and said, Here are Zebeth and Zalmunna. You taunted me about them, saying, The Zebeth and Zalmunna now in your power, that we should give bread to your exhausted men. So he took the elders of the city and took some thorns and briars from the wilderness, and he disciplined the men of Succoth with them. He also tore down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. He asked Zebul and Zalmunna, What kind of men did you kill in Tabor? They were like you, they said. Each resembled the son of a king. So he said, They were my brothers and the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if you had let them live, I would not kill you. Then he said to Jetheth, the firstborn, Get up and kill them. The youth did not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a youth. Zebeth and Zalmunna said, Get up and strike us down yourself, for a man is judged by his strength. So Gideon got up and killed Zebeth and Zalmunna, and took the crescent ornaments that were on the necks of their camels. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, Rule over us, you as well as your sons and your grandsons, for you delivered us from the power of Midian. But Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. Then he said to them, Let me make a request of you. Every one, give me an earring from your plunder. Now the enemy had gold earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. They said, We will agree to give them. So they spread out a cloak, and everyone threw an earring from their plunder on it. The weight of the gold rings he requested was 43 pounds of gold, in addition to the crescent ornaments and the ear pendants, the purple garments on the kings of Midian, and the gold cheeks on the camels. Gideon made an effort from all of this, and he put it in Ophrah's, his hometown. Then all the Israel prostitute themselves by worshiping it there, and it became a snare in Gideon and his household. So Midian was subdued by the Israelites, and they were no longer a threat. The land had a peace for 40 years during the days of Gideon. Zebul, son of Joash, went back to live at his house. Gideon had 70 sons, his offspring, and since he had many wives, his concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he named him Ameliak. Then Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. When Gideon died, Israelites turned and prostituted themselves by worship the Baals. They made Baal Berith their god. The Israelites did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the land of the enemies around them. They did not show kindness to the house of Jeruel for all of the good he had done for Israel. Judges chapter 9. Abimelech, son of Jeruel, went to Shechem, and he spoke to his uncles and to his mother, Oclaim, saying, Please speak in the hearing of all the citizens of Shechem. It is better for you that 70 men, all sons of Jeruel, rule over you, and that one man rule over you. Remember that I am your own flesh and blood. His mother's relatives spoke all these words about him in the hearing of the citizens of Shechem, and they were favorable to Abimelech, for they said, He is our brother. So they gave him 70 pieces of silver from the temple of Baal-Beroth, and Abimelech used it to hire worthless and reckless men, and they followed him. He went to his father's house and Ophrah and killed his 70 brothers and the sons of Jeruel on top of the large stone. But Jotham, the youngest of the son of Jeruel, survived because he hid. Then all the citizens of Shechem and Beth-Milio gathered together and proceeded to make Abimelech king at the oak of the pillar in Shechem. When they told Jotham, he climbed to the top of Mount Gerizim, raised his voice, and called to them, Listen to me, citizens of Shechem, and may God listen to you. The trees decided to appoint a king over themselves. They said to the olive tree, Reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, Should I stop giving my own oil that people use to honor both God and men and rule over the trees? Then the tree said to the fig tree, Come and reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, Should I stop giving my sweetness and my good fruit and rule over trees? Later the tree said to the grapevine, Come and reign over us. But the grapevine said to them, Should I stop giving wine that cheers both God and man and rule over trees? Finally all the trees said to the bramble, Come and reign over us. The bramble said to the trees, If you're really anointing me as king over you, come and find refuge in my shade. But if not, may fire come out of the bramble and consume the cedars of Lebanon. Now if you have acted faithfully and honestly in making Abimelech king, if you have done well by Jeruel and his family, and if you have rewarded him appropriately for what he did, may my father fought for you and risked his life and rescued you from the Midian. And now you have attacked my father's family today, killed his 70 sons on top of a large stone, and made Abimelech, the son of his slave woman, king over the citizens of Shechem, because he is your brother. So if you acted faithfully and honestly with Jeruel and his house this day, rejoice in Abimelech, and may he also rejoice in you. But if not, may fire come from Abimelech and consume the citizens of Shechem, because he is your brother. And so if you have acted faithfully and honestly with Jeruel and his house this day, rejoice in Abimelech, and may he also rejoice in you. But if not, may fire come from Abimelech and consume the citizens of Shechem and Beth-Milio. And may the fire come from the citizens of Shechem and Beth-Milio and consume Abimelech. Then Jotham fled, escaping to Beer, and lived there because of his brother Ameliak. When Ameliak had ruled over Israel 3 years, God sent an evil spirit between Ameliak and the sons of Jeshem. They treated Ameliak deceitfully so that the crime against the 70 sons of Jeruel might come to justice, and their blood would be avenged on their brother Ameliak, who killed him, on the sons of Jeshem, who had helped him kill his brothers. The citizens of Jeshem rebelled against him by putting men in ambush on the top of the mountains, and they robbed everyone who had passed by them on the road. So this was reported to Ameliak. Gaal, son of Ebed, came with his brothers and crossed over Shechem, and the citizens of Shechem trusted him. So they went out to the countryside and harvested grapes from the vineyards. They trampled the grapes and held a celebration. Then they went to the house of their God, and as they ate and drank, they cursed Ameliak. Gaal, son of Ebed, who is Ameliak, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is it he the son of Jerubbaal? And is it Jebel, his officer? You are to serve men of Hamor, the father of Shechem. Why should we serve Ameliak? If only the people who were in my power, I would remove Ameliak. So he said to Ameliak, gather your army and come out. When Jeshem, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaal, son of Ebed, he was angry. So he secretly sent messengers to Ameliak, saying, beware, Gaal, son of Ebed, and his soldiers have come to Shechem and are turning the city against you. Now tonight, you and the troops with you come and wait in ambush in the countryside. Then get up early and at sunrise attack the city. When he and his troops who were with him come out against you, do to him whatever you can. So Ameliak and all the troops with him got up at night and waited in ambush in Shechem in 4 units. Gaal, son of Ebed, went out and stood at the entrance of the city gate. Then Ameliak and the troops who were with him got up from their ambush. When Gaal saw the troops, he said to Zebul, look, the troops are coming down from the mountaintops. But Zebul said to him, the shadows of the mountains look like men to you. Then Gaal spoke again, look, troops are coming down from the central part of the land, and 1 unit is coming from the direction of the diviner's oak. Zebul replied, what do you have to say now? You said, who is Ameliak that we should serve him? Aren't these troops you despised? Now go and fight them. So Gaal went out, leading the citizens of Jeshem, and fought against Ameliak. But Ameliak pursued him, and Gaal fled before him. Numerous bodies were strewn as far as the entrance of the city gate. Ameliak stayed in Rehob, and Jebel drove Gaal and his brothers from Shechem. The next day, when the people of Shechem went into the countryside, this was what reported to Ameliak. He took the troops, divided them into 3 companies, and waited in ambush in the countryside. He looked, and the people were coming out of the city, so he rose against them and struck them down. Then Ameliak and the units that were with him rushed forward and took a stand at the entrance to the city gate. The other 2 units rushed against him, all who were in the countryside, and struck them down. So Ameliak fought against the city in the entire day and captured it and killed the people who were in it. Then he tore down the city and sowed it with salt. When the citizens of the tower of Shechem heard, they entered the inner chamber of the temple of El-Baruch. Then it was reported to Ameliak that all the citizens of the tower of Shechem had gathered. So Ameliak and all the troops who were with him went up to Mount Zalmon. Ameliak took his axe in his hand and cut a branch from the trees. Then he picked up the branch, put it on his shoulder, and said to the troops who were with him, hurry and do what you have seen me do. Each of the troops also cut down a branch and followed Ameliak. They put the branches against the inner chamber and set it on fire. about 1,000 men and women died, including the men of the Tower of Shechem. Amalek went to Thebez, camped against it, and captured it. There was a strong tower inside the city, and all the men and women and citizens of the city fled there. They locked themselves in it and went up to the roof of the tower. When Amalek came to attack the tower, he approached the entrance to set it on fire, but a woman threw the upper portion of a millstone into Amalek's head and fractured his skull. He quickly called his armor-bearer and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me, or they'll say about me, a woman killed him." So his armor-bearer ran him through, and he died. When the Israelites saw that Amalek was dead, they all went home. In this way, God fought back Amalek's evil, the evil that Amalek had done to his father when he killed his 70 brothers. So God also brought back to the men of Shechem all their evil. So the curse of Jotham, son of Jerubbaal, came upon them.
Judges 10. After Abimelech, Tola, son of Puah, son of Dodo, became judge and began to deliver Israel, he was from Issachar and lived in Samir, in the hill country of Ephraim. Tola judged Israel 23 years, and when he died, he was buried in Samir. After him came Jair the Gileadite, who judged Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys. They had 30 towns in Gilead, which are still called Jair villages. Today, when Jair died, he was buried in Kamon. Then the Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. They worshipped the Baals and the Ashtoreth, the gods of Aram, Sidon, and Moab, and the gods of Ammonites and the Philistines. They abandoned the Lord and did not worship him. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he sold them to the Philistines and the Ammonites. They settled and crushed the Israelites that year. And for 18 years they did the same to all the Israelites who were on the other side of the Jordan, in the land of the Amorites in Gilead. The Ammonites also crossed the Jordan to fight against Judah, Benjamin, and the house of Ephraim. Israel was greatly oppressed, so they cried out to the Lord, saying, "We have sinned against you. We have abandoned your God and worshipped the Baals." The Lord said to the Israelites, "When the Egyptians, Amorites, Edomites, Philistines, Shemonites, Amalekites, and Maonites oppressed you, and you cried out to me, did I not deliver you from them? But you have abandoned me and worshipped other gods. Therefore I will not deliver you again. Go and cry out to the gods you have chosen. Let them deliver you whenever you are oppressed. But the Israelites said, "We have sinned. Deal with us as you see fit. Only rescue us today." So they got rid of the foreign gods among them and worshipped the Lord, and he became weary of Israel's misery. The Ammonites were called together, and they camped in Gilead. So the Israelites assembled and camped in Mizpah. The rulers of Gilead said to one another, "Which man will begin the fight against the Ammonites?" He will be the leader of all the inhabitants of Gilead. Judges 11. Jephthah the Gileadite was a valiant warrior, but he was the son of a prostitute, and Gilead was his father. Gilead's wife bore him sons, and when they grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, "You will have no inheritance in our father's family, because you are the son of another woman." So Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob. Then some worthless men joined Jephthah and went on raids with him. Sometime later, the Ammonites fought against Israel. When the Ammonites made war with Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tob. They say to him, "Come, be our commander, and let's fight the Ammonites." Jephthah replied to the elders of Gilead, "Didn't you hate me and drive me out from my father's family? Why then have you come to me now when you are in trouble?" They answered Jephthah, "That's true. But now we turn to you. Come with us, fight the Ammonites, and you will become leader of all the inhabitants of Gilead." So Jephthah said to them, "If you are bringing me back to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gives them to me, I'll be your leader." The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "The Lord is our witness. If we don't do as you say..." So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead. The people made him their leader and commander, and Jephthah repeated all his terms in the presence of the Lord at Mizpah. Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the Ammonites, asking, "What do you have against me, that you have come to fight me in my land?" The king of the Ammonites said to Jephthah messengers, "When Israel came from Egypt, they seized my land from the Arnon to the Jabbok and the Jordan. Now restore it peaceably." Jephthah again sent messengers to the king of the Ammonites to tell him, "This is what Jephthah said. Israel did not take away the land of Moab or the land of the Ammonites, but when they came from Egypt, Israel traveled through the wilderness and the Red Sea and came to Kadesh. Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, 'Please let us travel through your land.' But the king of Edom would not listen. They also sent messengers to the king of Moab, but he refused. So Israel stayed in Kadesh. When they traveled through the wilderness and around the land of Edom and Moab, they came to east side of the land of Moab and camped on the other side of the Arnon, but did not enter into the territory of Moab, for the Arnon was the boundary of Moab. When Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Ammonites, king of Heshbon, Israel said to him, "Please let us travel through your land to our country." But Sihon would not trust Israel to pass through this territory. Instead, Sihon gathered all his troops camped at Jahaz and fought with Israel. Then the Lord God of Israel handed over Sihon and all his troops of Israel, and they defeated them. So Israel took possession of the entire land of the Ammonites who lived in that country. They took possession of all territory of the Ammonites, from the Arnon to the Jabbok, and from the wilderness to the Jordan. The Lord God of Israel has now driven out the Ammonites before his people, Israel. And will you now force us out? Isn't it true that you can have whatever your God can march conquest for you, and we can have whatever the Lord of our God conquest for us? Now are you any better than Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever contend with Israel or fight against them? While Israel lived 300 years in Heshbon and Ahoe and their surroundings, villages, and in all the cities that are on the banks of the Arnon, why didn't you take them back at that time? I have not sinned against you, but you are doing me wrong by fighting against me. Let the Lord, who is the judge, decide today between the Israelites and the Ammonites. But the king of the Ammonites would not listen to Jephthah's message that he sent him. The Spirit of the Lord came to Jephthah, who traveled through Gilead and Manasseh, and then through Mizpah and of Gilead. He crossed over to the Ammonites from Mizpah of Gilead. Jephthah made this vow to the Lord: if you in fact hand over the Ammonites to me, whoever comes out the door of my house to greet me when I return safely from the Ammonites will belong to the Lord. I will offer that person as a burnt offering. Jephthah crossed over to the Ammonites to fight against them, and the Lord handed them over to him. He defeated 20 of their cities with a great slaughter from Ahoe all the way to the entrance of Minit and to Abel Keramim. So the Ammonites were subdued before the Israelites. When Jephthah went to his home in Mizpah, there was his daughter coming out to meet him with tambourines and dancing. She was his only child. He had no other son or daughter beside her. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and said, "No, not my daughter. You have devastated me. You have brought me great misery on me. I have given my word to the Lord and cannot take it back." When he said to him, "Father, you have given your word to the Lord." "My father." When she said to him, "My father, you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me as you have said, for the Lord brought revenge on your enemies, the Ammonites." She also said to her father, "Let me do this one thing. Let me wander 2 months through the mountains with my friends and mourn my virginity." "Go," he said, and he sent her away 2 months. So she left with her friends and mourned her virginity as she wandered through the mountains. At the end of 2 months, she returned to her father, and he kept the vow he had made about her, and she had never been intimate with a man. Now it became a custom in Israel that 4 days each year a young woman of Israel would commemorate the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite.
Judges 12. The men of Ephraim were called together and crossed the Jordan to Zaphon. They said to Jephthah, "Why have you crossed over to fight against the Ammonites, but didn't call us to go with you? We will burn your house with you in it." Then Jephthah said to them, "My people and I had bitter conflict with them, with the Ammonites. So I called for you, but you didn't believe me. From their power, when I saw that you weren't going to deliver me, I took my life in my own hands and crossed over to the Ammonites, and the Lord handed them over to me. Why then have you come today to fight against me?" Then Jephthah gathered all the men of Gilead. They fought and defeated Ephraim, because Ephraim had said, "You Gileadites are Ephraim's fugitives in the territories of Ephraim and Manasseh." The Gileadites captured the fords of the Jordan leading to Ephraim. Whenever a fugitive from Ephraim said, "Let me cross over," the Gileadites asked him, "Are you an Ephraimites?" If he answered no, they told him, "Please say Shibboleth." If he said Shibboleth, because he could not pronounce it correctly, they seized him and executed him at the fords of the Jordan. At that time, 42,000 from Ephraim died. Jephthah judged Israel 6 years, and when he died, he was buried in one of the cities of the Gilead. Ibzan, who was from Bethlehem, judged Israel after Jephthah and had 30 sons. He gave his 30 daughters in marriage to men outside the tribe and brought back 30 wives for his sons from outside the tribe. Ibzan judged Israel 7 years, and when he died, he was buried in Bethlehem. Elon, who was from Zebulun, judged Israel after Ibzan. He judged Israel 10 years, and when he died, he was buried in Aijalon in the land of Zebulun. After Elon, Abdon, son of Hillel, who was from Pirathon, judges Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons, who rode on 70 donkeys. Adons judged Israel 8 years, and when he died, he was buried in Pirathon in the land of Ephraim, in the hill country of the Amalekites.
Judges 13. The Israelites again did what was evil in the Lord's sight. So the Lord handed them over to the Philistines 40 years. There was a certain man from Zorah, from the family of Dan, whose name was Manoah. His wife was unable to conceive and had no children. The angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, "Although you are unable to conceive and have no children, you will conceive and give birth to a son. Now please be careful not to drink wine or beer, or to eat anything unclear. For indeed you will conceive and give birth to a son. You must never cut his hair, because the boy will be a Nazarite to God from birth, and he will begin to save Israel from the power of the Philistines." Then the woman went and told her husband, "A man of God came to me. He looked like the early and spring angel of God. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. He said to me, 'You will conceive and give birth to a son. Therefore do not drink wine or beer, and do not eat anything unclear, because the boy will be a Nazarite to God from birth until the day of his death.' Manoah prayed to the Lord and said, 'Please, Lord, let the man of God you send come again to us and teach us what we should do for the boy who will be born.' God listened to Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman. She was sitting in the field, and her husband, Manoah, was not with her. The woman ran quickly to her husband and told him, 'The man who came to me the other day has just come back.' So Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he asked, 'Are you the man who spoke to my wife?' 'I am,' he said. Then Manoah asked, 'When your words come true, what will be the boy's responsibilities and work?' The angel of the Lord answered Manoah, 'Your wife needs to do everything I told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine or drink wine or beer, and she must not eat anything unclean. Your wife must do everything I have commanded her. Please stay here,' Manoah told him, 'and we will prepare a young goat for you.' The angel of the Lord said to him, 'If I stay, I won't eat your food. But if you want to prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord.' Manoah did not know he was an angel of the Lord. Then Manoah said to him, 'What is your name, so that we may honor you when your words come true?' 'Why do you ask my name?' The angel of the Lord asked him, 'Since it is beyond understanding.' Manoah took a young goat and a grain offering and offered them on a rock to the Lord, who did something miracles. While Manoah and his wife were watching, when the flame went up from the altar to the sky, the angel of the Lord went up in its flame. Then Manoah and his wife saw this. They fell face down on the ground. The angel of the Lord did not appear again to Manoah and his wife. Then Manoah realized that it was an angel of the Lord. 'We are certainly going to die,' he said to his wife, 'because we have seen God.' But his wife said to him, 'If the Lord had intended to kill us, he wouldn't have accepted the burnt offering and the grain offering from us, and he would not have shown us these things or spoken to us like this.' So the woman gave birth to a son and named him Samson. So the boy grew, and the Lord blessed him. The Spirit of the Lord began to stir him in the camp of Dan, between Zorah and Estaol. Judges 14. Samson went down to Timnah and saw a young Philistine woman there. He went back and told his father and his mother, 'I have seen a young Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as a wife.' But his father and mother said to him, 'Can't you find a young woman among your relatives or among any of our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistine for a wife?' But Samson told his father, 'Get her for me. She's the right one for me.' Now his father and mother did not know this was from the Lord, who wanted a Philistine to provide an opportunity for a confrontation. At that time, the Philistines were ruling Israel. Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother and came to the vineyard of Timnah. Suddenly a young lion came roaring at him. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully on him, and he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn young goat. But he did not tell his father or mother what he had done. Then he went and spoke to the woman, because she seemed right to Samson. After some time, when he returned to marry her, he left the road to see the lion's carcass, and there was a swan of bees, with honey in the carcass. He scooped some honey into his hand and ate it as he went along. When he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they ate it. But he did not tell them that he had scooped the honey from a lion's carcass. His father went to visit the woman, and Samson prepared a feast there, a young men were accustomed to do. When the Philistines saw him, they brought 30 men to accompany him. Let me tell you a riddle. Samson said to them, if you can explain it to me during the 7 days of the feast, figure it out, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you can't explain it to me, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. Tell us your riddle, they replied. Let's hear it. So he said to them, out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. After 3 days, they were unable to explain the riddle. On the 40th day, they said to Samson's wife, persuade your husband to explain the riddle to us, or we will burn you and your father's family to death. Did you invite us here to rob us? So Samson's wife came to him, weeping, and said, you hate me and don't love me. You told my people the riddle, but haven't explained it to me. Look, I said, I haven't even explained it to my father and mother. Why should I explain it to you? She swept the whole 7 days of the feast, and at last on the 7th day he explained it to her, because she had begged him so much. When she explained it to her people, on the 7th day before sunset, the men of the city said to him, what is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? So he said to them, if you hadn't plowed with my young cow, you couldn't know my riddle now. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully on him, and he went down to Ashkelon and killed 30 of their men. He ripped them and gave their clothes to who had explained the riddle. Rage. Samson returned to his father's house, and his wife was given to one of the men who had accompanied him.
Judges 15. Later on, during the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat as a gift and visited his wife. I want to go to my wife in her room, and said, but her father would not let him enter. I was sure you hated her. Her father said, so I gave her to one of the men who accompanied you. Isn't her younger sister more beautiful than she is? Why not take her instead? Samson then said to them, this time I will be blemished when I harm the Philistines. So he went out and caught 300 foxes, and took torches, turned the foxes tail to tail, and put the torch between them. pair of tail. When he ignited the torches and released the foxes into the standing grain, the Philistines burned the pile of grain. He burned the pile of grain and the standing grain, as well as the vineyard and olive grove. Then the Philistines asked, "Who did this?" They were told it was Samson, the Titan's son-in-law. But because he took Samson's wife, he gave her to his companion. So the Philistines went to her and her father and burned them to death. And then Samson told them, "Because you did this, I swear that I won't rest until I have taken vengeance on you." He tore the limbs from limb from limb, then went down and stayed in the cave at the rock of Edom. The Philistines went up, camped in Judah, and raised Lay. So the men of Judah said, Why have you attacked us?" They replied, "We have come to tie Samson up and pay him back for what he did." Then 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave at the rock of Edom, and they asked Samson, "Don't you realize that the Philistines rule us? What have you done to us?" "I have done to them what they have done to me," he answered. They said to him, "We come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines." Then Samson told them, "Swear to me that you yourself won't kill me." "No," they said, "we won't kill you, but we will tie you up secretly and hand you over to them." So they tied him up with 2 new ropes and led him away from the rock. When he came to Leah, the Philistines came to him shouting. The spirits of the Lord came powerfully on him, and the ropes that were on his arms and wrists became like burnt flax and fell off. He found a fresh jawbone of donkey, reached out his hand and took it and killed 1,000 men with it. Then Samson said, "With the jawbone of a donkey I have piled them in heaped with the jawbone of a donkey. I have killed 1,000 men." When he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone and named the place Jawbone Hill. He became very thirsty and called out to the Lord, "You have accomplished this great victory, though your servant must, I know, now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised." So God split the hollow place in the ground at Leah, and water came out of it. After Samson drank, his strength returned, and he revived. That is why he named it Hakor Spring, which is still in Leah today. and he judged Israel 20 years, and in the day of the Philistines or Philistine. Judges 16. Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute and went to bed with her. When the Gazites heard that Simon was there, they surrounded the place and ambushed for him all that night at the city gate. They kept quiet all night, saying, "Let's wait until dawn, then we kill him." But Simon stayed in bed only until midnight. Then he got up and took the door of the city gate along with 2 gateposts and pulled them out, bar and all. He put them on his shoulder and took them to the top of the mountain overlooking Harbon. Some time later, he fell in love with a woman named Delia, who lived in the Sorek Valley. The Philistines leader went to her and said, "Pursue him and tell you where his great strength come from, so we can overpower him, tie him up and make him helpless. Each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver." So Delia said to Samson, "Please tell me, where does your strength come from? How could someone tie you up and make you helpless?" Samson told her, "If they tie me up with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I will become weak and be like any other men." The Philistine leaders brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she tied him up with them. While the men in ambush were waiting in her room, she called out to him, "Samson, the Philistines are here." But he snapped the bowstrings as a strand of yarn snapped when it touched fire. The secret of his strength remained unknown. Then Delia said to Samson, "You have mocked me and told me lies. Won't you please tell me how you can be tied up?" He told her, "If they tie me up with new ropes that have never been used, I will become weak like any other man." Delia took new ropes, tied him up with them, and shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are here." But while the men in the ambush were waiting in her room, he snapped the ropes off his arms like a thread. Then Delia said to Samson, You have mocked me all along and told me lies. Tell me how you can be tied up." He told her, "If you weave us the 7 beads to my hand into the fabric on the loom." She fastened the bead with a pin and called to him, "Simon, the Philistines are here." He awoke from his sleep and pulled out the pin with the loom and the web. How can you say I love you? She told him, when your heart is not with me. This is the third time you have mocked me and told me that your strength is so great. 'Cause she nagged him day after day, pleaded with him until he wore him out. He told her the whole truth and said to her, my hair has never been cut because I am a Nazarite to God from birth. If I am shaved, my strength will leave me, and I will become weak and be like any other men. When Dahlia realized that he told her the whole truth, she sent this message to the Philistine leaders, come one more time, for he has told me the whole truth. The Philistine leaders came to her and brought the silver with them. Then she let him fall asleep on her lap and called him a man to shave off the 7 braids of his head in this way. She made him helpless, and his strength left him. Then she cried, Samson, the Philistines are here. When he awoke from his sleep, he said, I will escape as I did before and shake myself free. But he did not know the Lord had left him. The Philistines seized him and got his eyes, then brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze shackles. And he was forced to grind grain in the prison, but his hair began to grow back after it has been shaved. Now the Philistines' leader gathered together to offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon. They rejoiced and said, our God has handed over our enemy Samson to us. When the people saw him, they praised their God and said, our God has handed over to us our enemy who destroyed our land and who multiplied our dead when they were in good spirits. They said, bring Samson here to entertain us. So they brought Samson from prison, and he entertained them. They had him stand between the pillars. Samson said to the young man who was leading him by the hand, lead me where I can feel the pillars separating the temple so I can lean against them. The temple was full of men and women were there, and about 3,000 men and women were on the roof watching Samson entertain them. He called out to the Lord, Lord God, please remember me, strengthen me, God, just once more. When one act of vengeance, let me pay back the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars, supporting the temple and leaned against them, one of his right hand and one on the other on his left. Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." He paused with all his might. He pushed with all his might, and the temple fell on the leaders and all the people in it, and those he killed at his death were more than those he had killed in his life. Then his brother and his father's whole family came down, carried him back, and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Mona. So he judged Israel 20 years.
Judges 17. The men of Ephraim were called together and crossed the Jordan to Zaphon. They said to Jephthah, "Why have you crossed over to fight against the Ammonites, but didn't call us to go with you? We will burn your house with you in it." Then Jephthah said to them, "My people and I had bitter conflict with them, with the Ammonites. So I called for you, but you didn't believe me. From their power, when I saw that you weren't going to deliver me, I took my life in my own hands and crossed over to the Ammonites, and the Lord handed them over to me. Why then have you come today to fight against me?" Then Jephthah gathered all the men of Gilead. They fought and defeated Ephraim, because Ephraim had said, "You Gileadites are Ephraim's fugitives in the territories of Ephraim and Manasseh." The Gileadites captured the fords of the Jordan leading to Ephraim. Whenever a fugitive from Ephraim, I'm sad. "Let me cross over." The Gileadites asked him, "Are you an Ephraimites?" If he answered no, they told him, "Please say Shibboleth." If he said Siboleth, because he could not pronounce it correctly, they seized him and executed him at the fords of the Jordan. At that time, 42,000 from Ephraim died. Jephthah judged Israel 6 years, and when he died, he was buried in one of the cities of the Gilead. Ibzan was from Bethlehem, judged Israel after Jephthah, and had 30 sons. He gave his 30 daughters in marriage to men outside the tribe and brought back 30 wives for his sons from outside the tribe. Ibzan judged Israel 7 years, and when he died, he was buried in Bethlehem. Elon, who was from Zebulun, judged Israel after Ibzan. He judged Israel 10 years, and when he died, he was buried in Aijalon in the land of Zebulun. After Elon, Abdon, son of Hillel, who was from Pirathon, judges Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons, who rode on 70 donkeys. Adons judged Israel 8 years, and when he died, He was buried in Parathon in the land of Ephraim in the hill country of the Amalekites. Judges 17. There was a man from the hill country of Ephraim named Micah. He said to his mother, "The 1,100 pieces of silver taken from you, and that I heard you place a curse on. Here's the silver I took. I took it." Then his mother said, "My son, may you be blessed by the Lord." He returned the 1,800 pieces of silver to his mother, and his mother said, "I personally consecrate the silver to the Lord for my son's benefit to make a carved image and silver idol. I will give it back to you." So he returned the silver to his mother, and she took 5 pounds of silver and gave it to the silversmith. He made it into a carved image and silver idol, and it was in Micah's house. This man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and household idols, and installed one of his sons to be his priest. In those days, there were no king in Israel. Everyone did whatever seemed right to him. There was a young man, a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who was staying with him within the clan of Judah. The man left in town of Bethlehem in Judah to stay wherever he could find a place. On his way, he came to Micah's home in the hill country of Ephraim. "Where do you come from?" Micah asked him. He answered, "I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to stay wherever I can find a place." Micah replied, "Stay with me, and my father and priest and I will give you for once of silver a year along with your clothing and provisions." So the Levite went in and agreed to stay with the man, and the young man became like one of his sons. Micah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest and lived in Micah's house. Then Micah said, "Now I know what the Lord will be good to me. I know that the Lord will be good to me, because a Levite has become my priest."
Judges chapter 18. In those days, there was no king in Israel, and the Danite tribe was looking for territory to occupy. Up to that time, no territory had been captured by them among the tribes of Israel. So the Danites sent out 5 brave men from all their clans, from Zorah and Eshtaol, to scout out the land and explore it. They told them, "Go and explore the land." They came to the hill country of Ephraim, as far as the home of Micah, and spent the night there. While they were near Micah's home, they recognized the accent of the young Levite. So they went over to him and asked, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What is keeping you here?" He told them, "This is what Micah has done for me. He has hired me, and I became his priest." Then they said to him, "Please inquire of God for us to determine if we will have a successful journey." The priest told them, "Go in peace. The Lord is watching over the journey you are going on." The 5 men left and came to Laish. They saw that the people who were there were living securely, in the same way as the Sidonians, quiet and unsuspecting. There was nothing lacking in the land and no oppressive ruler. They were far from the Sidonians, having no alliance with anyone. When the men went back to their relatives at Zorah and Eshtal, their relatives asked them, "What did you find out?" They answered, "Come on, let's attack them, for we have seen the land and it is very good. Why wait? Don't hesitate to go and invade and take possession of the land. When you get there, you will come to an unsuspecting people and a spacious land, for God has handed it over to you. It is a place where nothing on earth is lacking." 600 Danites departed from Zorah and Eshtal, armed with weapons of war. They went up and camped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah. This is why the people is still called the Camp of Dan till today. It is west of Kiriath Jearim. From there, they traveled to the hill country of Ephraim and arrived at Micah's house. The 5 men who had gone to scout out the land of Laish told their brothers, "Did you know that there are an ephod household gods and a carved image and a silver idol in this houses? Now think about what you should do." So they detoured there and went to the house of the young Levite at the home of the Micah and greeted him. The 600 Danite men were standing by the entrance of the city gate, armed with their weapons of war. Then the 5 men who had gone to scout out the land went in and took the carved image, the ephod, the household idols, and the silver doll, while the priest was standing by the entrance of the city gate with the 600 men armed with weapons of war. When they entered Micah's house and took the carved images, the ephod, the household dolls, and the silver doll, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" They told him, "Be quiet. Keep your mouth shut. Come with us and be a father and a priest to us. Is it better for you to be a priest for the house of one person, or for you to be a priest for a tribe and family in Israel?" So the priest was pleased and took the ephod, household idols, and carved images, and went with the people. They prepared to leave, putting their dependents, livestock, and possessions in front of them. After they were some distance from Micah's house, the men who were in the house near it were mustered and caught up with the Danites. They called to the Danites, who turned to face them, and said to Micah, "What is the matter with you that you mustered the men?" He said, "You took the gods I had made and the priests, and went away. What do I have left? How can you say to me, 'What's the matter with you?'" The Danites said to him, "Don't raise your voice against us, or an angry man will attack you, and you and your family will lose your lives." The Danites went to their way, and Micah turned to go back home, because he saw that they were stronger than he was. After they had taken the gods Micah had made and the priest that belonged to him, they went to Laish, to a quiet and unsuspecting people. They killed them with their swords and burned the city. There was no one to rescue them because it was far from Sidon, and they had no alliance with anyone. It was in a valley that belonged to Beth-rehob. They rebuilt the city and lived in it. They named the city Dan, after the name of their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel. The city was formerly named Laish. The Danites set up the carved image for themselves. Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the Danite tribe until the time of the exile from the land. So they set up for themselves Micah's carving image that he had made, and it was there as long as the house of God was in Shiloh. Judges chapter 19. In those days, when there was no king in Israel, a Levite staying in a remote part of the hill country of Ephraim acquired a woman from Bethlehem in Judah as his concubine. But she was unfaithful to him and left him for her father's house in Bethlehem in Judah. She was there for 4 months. Then her husband got up and followed her to speak kindly to her and bring her back. He had his servant with him and a pair of donkeys. So she brought him to her father's house. And when the girl's father saw him, he gladly welcomed him. His father-in-law, the girl's father, detained him, and he stayed with him for 3 days. They ate, drank, and spent the nights there. On the 4th day, they got up early in the morning and prepared to go. But the girl's father said to his son-in-law, "Have something to eat to keep up your strength, and then you go." So they sat down, and the two of them ate and drank together. Then the girl's father said to the man, "Please agree to stay overnight and enjoy yourself." The man got up to go, but his father-in-law persuaded him. So he stayed and spent the night there again. He got up early in the morning of the 5th day to leave, but the girl's father said to him, "Please keep up your strength." So they waited until late afternoon, and the two of them ate. The man got up to go with his concubine and his servant. When his father-in-law, the girl's father, said to him, "Look, night is coming. Please spend the night. See, the day is almost over. Spend the night here. Enjoy yourself. Then you can get up early tomorrow for your journey and go home." But the man was unwilling to spend the night. He got up, departed, and arrived opposite Jebus. This is Jerusalem. The man had his 2 saddled donkeys and his concubine with him. When they were near Jebus, and the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Please, why not let us stop at the Jebusite city and spend the night there?" But his master replied to him, "We will not stop at a foreign city where there are no Israelites. Let's move on to Gibeah." "Come on," he said, "let's try to reach one of these places and spend the night in Gibeah or Ramah." So they continued on their journey, and the sun set up as they neared Gibeah in Benjamin. They stopped to go in and spend the night in Gibeah. The Levite went in and sat down in the city square, but no one took them into their home to spend the night. In the morning, an old man came in from his work in the field. He was from the hill country of Ephraim, but he was residing in Gibeah, where the people were Benjamites. When he looked up and saw the traveler in the city square, the old man asked, "Where are you going, and where do you come from?" He answered to him, "We're traveling from Bethlehem in Judah to the remote hill country of Ephraim, where I am from. I went to Bethlehem in Judah, and now I'm going to the house of the Lord. No one has taken me into his home, although there's straw and feed for the donkeys, and I have bread and wine for me, my concubine and the servant with us. There's nothing we lack." "Welcome," said the old man. "I'll take care of everything you need. Only don't spend the night in the square." So he brought him to his house and fed the donkeys. Then they washed their feet and ate and drank. While they were enjoying themselves, all of a sudden a wicked man of the city surrounded the house and beat on the door. They said to the old man, "Who was the owner of the house? Bring out the man who came to your house so we can have sex with him." The owner of the house went out and said to them, "Please don't do this evil, my brothers. After all, this man has come into my house. Don't commit this horrible outrage. Here, let me bring out my virgin daughter and the man's concubine now. Abuse them and do whatever you want to them, but don't commit this outrageous thing against this man." But the men would not listen to him, so the man seized his concubine and took her outside to them. They raped her and abused her all night until morning. At daybreak, they let her go. Early that morning, the woman made her way back, and as it was getting light, she collapsed at the doorway of the man's house where her master was. When her master got up in the morning, opened the doors of the house, and went out to leave on his journey, there was the woman, his concubine, collapsed near the doorway of the house, with her hands on the threshold. "Get up," he told her, "let's go." But there was no response, so the man put her on his donkey and set out for home. When he entered his house, he picked up a knife, took hold of his concubine, cut her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, and then sent her through the territory of Israel. Everyone who saw it said, "Nothing like this has ever happened or has been seen since the day the Israelites came out of the land of Egypt until now. Think it over and discuss it, and speak up. Judges chapter 20. All the Israelites from Dan to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead came out, and the community assembled as one body before the Lord at Mizpah. The leaders of all the people and of all the tribes of Israel presented themselves in the assembly of God's people, 400,000 armed foot soldiers. The Benjamites heard that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. The Israelites asked, "Tell us, how did this evil act happen?" The Levite, the husband of the murdered woman, answered, "I went to Gibeah in Benjamin with my concubine to spend the night. Citizens of Gibeah came to attack me and surrounded the house. At night, they intended to kill me, but they raped my concubine and she died. Then I took my concubine and cut her in pieces and sent her throughout Israel's territory, because they have committed a wicked outrage in Israel. Look, all of you are Israelites. Give your judgment and verdict here and now." Then all the people stood united and said, "None of us will go to his tent or return to his house. Now this is what we will do to Gibeah. We will attack it. By lot, we will take 10 men out of every 100 from all the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of every 1,000, and 1,000 out of every 10,000, to get provisions for the troops when they go to the Gibeah and Benjamin, to punish them for all the outrage they committed in Israel." So all the men of Israel gathered united against the city. Then the tribes of Israel sent men throughout the tribes of Benjamin, saying, "What is this evil act that has happened among you? Hand over the wicked men in Gibeah, so we can put them to death and purge evil from Israel." But Benjamin would not listen to their fellow Israelites. Instead, the Benjamites gathered together from their cities to Gibeah to go out and fight against the Israelites. On that day, the Benjamites mobilized 26,000 armed men from their cities. Besides 700 fit young men rallied by the inhabitants of Gibeah, there were 700 fit young men who were left-handed among all these troops. All could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. The Israelites, apart from Benjamin, mobilized 400,000 armed men, everyone an experienced warrior. They set out, went to Bethel, and inquired of God. The Israelites asked, "Who is to go first to fight for us against the Benjamites?" And the Lord answered, "Judah will be first." In the morning, the Israelites set out and camped near Gibeah. The men of Israelites went out to fight against Benjamin and took their battle position against Gibeah. The Benjamites came out of Gibeah and slaughtered 22,000 men of Israel on the field that day. But the Israelite troops rallied and again took their battle position in the same place where they positioned themselves on the first day. They went up, wept before the Lord until evening, and inquired of him, "Should we again attack our brothers, the Benjamites?" And the Lord answered, "Fight against them." On the second day, the Israelites advanced against the Benjamites. That same day, the Benjamites came out from Gibeah to meet them and slaughtered an additional 18,000 Israelites on the field. All were armed. The whole Israelite army went to Bethel, where they wept and sat before the Lord. They fasted that day until evening and offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings to the Lord. Then the Israelites inquired of the Lord. In those days the ark of the covenant of God was there, and if Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, was served before it. The Israelites asked, "Should we again fight against our brothers the Benjaminites, or should we stop?" The Lord answered, "Fight, because I will hand them over to you tomorrow." So Israel sent up an ambush around Gibeah. On the third day, the Israelites fought against the Benjaminites and took their battle positions against Gibeah as before. Then the Benjaminites came out against the troops and were drawn away from the city. They began to attack the troops as before, killing about 30 men of Israel on the highways, one of which goes up to Bethel and the other to Gibeah through the open country. The Benjaminites said, "We are defeating them as before." But the Israel said, "Let's flee and draw them away from the city to the highways." So all the men of Israel got up from their places and took their battle positions at Baal-Tamar, while the Israelites in ambush charged out of their places west of Geba. Then 10,000 fit young men from all Israel made a frontal assault against Gibeah, and the battle was fierce. But the Benjaminites did not know that disaster was about to strike them. The Lord defeated Benjamin in the presence of Israel, and on that day the Israelites slaughtered 25,100 men of Benjamin. All were armed. Then the Benjaminites realized they had been defeated. The men of Israel had retreated before Benjamin, because they were confident in the ambush they had set against Gibeah. The men in ambush had rushed quickly against Gibeah. They advanced and put the whole city to the sword. The men of Israel had a prearranged signal with the men in ambush. When they set up a great cloud of smoke from the city, the men of Israel would return to the battle. When Benjamin had begun to strike them down, killing about 30 men of Israel, they said, "They're defeated before us, just as they were in the first battle." But when the column of smoke began to go up from the city, Benjamin looked behind them, and the whole city was going up in smoke. Then the men of Israel returned, and the men of Benjamin were terrified. When they realized that disaster had struck them, they retreated before the men of Israel toward the wilderness, but the battle overtook them, and those who came out of the city slaughtered those between them. They surrounded the Benjaminites, persuaded them, and easily overtook them near Gibeah towards the east. There were 18,000 men who died from Benjamin. All were warriors. Then Benjamin turned and fled towards the wilderness to Rimmon Rock, and Israel killed 5,000 men all on the highways. They overtook them at Gidom and struck 2,000 more dead. All the Benjaminites who died that day were 25,000 armed men, but all were warriors. But 600 men escaped into the wilderness to Rimmon Rock and stayed there 4 months. The men of Israel turned back against the other Benjaminites and killed them with their swords. The entire city, the animals, and everything that remained. They also burned all the cities that remained.
Judges 21. The men of Israel have sworn an oath to Mizah, none of us will give his daughter to a Benjaminite in marriage. So the people went to Bethel and sat there before God until evening. They wept loudly and bitterly. They cried out, "Why, Lord God of Israel, has it occurred that one tribe is missing in Israel today?" The next day the people got up early, built an altar there, and offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. The Israelites asked, "Who of all the tribes of Israel didn't come to the Lord with the assembly?" For a great oath had been taken with that anyone who had not come to the Lord at Mizah would certainly put to death. But the Israelites had compassion on their brothers, the Benjaminites, and said, "Today the tribe has been cut off from Israel. What should we do about the wives for the survivors? We sworn to the Lord not to give them any of our daughters as wives." They asked, which city among the tribes of Israel didn't come to the Lord at Mizah? It turned out that no one from Jabesh Gilead had come to the camp and the assembly, for when the roll was called, no men were there from the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead, 400 young virgins who had not been intimate with the man, and they brought them to the camp at Shelah in the land of Canaan. The whole congregation sent a message of peace to the Benjaminites who were at Rimmon Rock. Benjamin returned at that time, and Israel gave them the woman they had kept alive from Jabesh Gilead, but they were not enough for them. The people had compassion on Benjamin because the Lord had made this gap in the tribe of Israel. The leaders of the congregation said, "What should we do about wives for those who are left, since the woman of Benjamin had been destroyed?" They said, "There must be heirs for the survivors of Benjamin, so that a tribe of Israel will not be wiped out. But we can't give them our daughters as wives, for the Israelites had sworn anyone who gives a wife to a Benjaminite is cursed." They also said, "Look, there is an annual festival to the Lord in Shiloh, which is north of Bethel, east of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and north of Lebanon." Then they commanded that the Benjaminites to go and hide in the vineyard. "Watch, and when you see a young woman of Shelah come out to perform the dance, each of you leave the vineyard and catch a wife for yourself from a young woman of Shelah, and go to the land of Benjamin. When their fathers or brothers come to us and protest, we will tell them, 'Show favor to them, since we did not get enough wives for each of them in the battle. You didn't actually give the woman to them, so you are not guilty of breaking your oath.' The Benjaminites did this and took the number of women they needed from the dancer they caught. They went back to their own inheritance, rebuilt their city, and lived in them. At the time each of the Israelites returned from them there to his own tribe and family, each returned from there to his own inheritance. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did whatever seemed right to them.